Have you ever felt that the world seems to be spinning too fast, and that, without realizing it, you are being dragged along by this current without even having time to breathe? The truth is that, in the rush of everyday life, most people react automatically, without control, without awareness. And without realizing it, they hand over their own power into the hands of circumstances. But what if I told you that true strength is not in speed, but in conscious slowness? That winning, truly, is for those who control their mind, control their breathing, and allow themselves to reflect before acting. In this video, we will discover together how tranquility, far from being a weakness, is actually a secret weapon of wise men and winners. Let's learn to slow down inside, even when everything around us seems like a whirlwind. And most importantly, how small adjustments in your perception, your thinking, and your breathing can completely change your destiny. Take a deep breath, because what you'll discover here could transform the way you look at life forever. Many people still believe that tranquility is a sign of weakness, as if it were the thing of those who surrender in the face of challenges. But, in truth, tranquility is a courageous decision, a conscious act by someone who dominates their own mind and controls their emotions. It takes strength to maintain serenity while the world around you falls apart. Anyone who reacts on impulse loses control. Whoever breathes and reflects wins. Imagine a violent storm. Most run desperately looking for shelter, tripping over their own fears. The wise man takes a deep breath, observes the sky, and moves calmly, choosing the best moment to act. Tranquility, in this scenario, is more than inner peace, it is pure strategy. And those who learn to maintain this serenity master the art of self-control, even in the most critical moments. It's very easy to appear strong by shouting, banging the table, or reacting angrily. It's really difficult to remain silent, with a calm mind, while everything asks you to explode. This is where the strength of Stoicism comes in being master of yourself. It's not about ignoring emotions, but about not being hostage to them. Those who have this ability inevitably become wiser, more respected, and more effective. When you understand that tranquility is an active force, it begins to change the way you face life. It's not about being slow or passive, but about acting at the right time, with a clear mind and sharp perception. You stop being led by emotions and start being led by reason and wisdom. And that, in the long term, changes absolutely everything. Try observing how the big decisions in your life were made. When you were agitated, how many times did you regret it later? And when you took a deep breath, reflected, and acted serenely, did you notice how everything flowed better? That's what tranquility is, a force that works in silence, but makes noise in the result. Starting to practice this strength is simpler than it seems. Before any impulsive reaction, an argument, a criticism, bad news, give yourself a few seconds to breathe deeply. These seconds are worth their weight in gold. They are the space that separates an automatic reaction from a conscious response. And, over time, this will become a natural part of your being. Remember, it is not the noise that overcomes the storm. It is the calm center that resists until it passes. The tranquility you cultivate today is the armor that will protect you tomorrow. And as you harness this strength, you discover that while the world screams, you can simply smile and carry on. Hard, with mind, with discipline, wisely. Life is not made up of what happens to you, but the way you see what happens. This is one of the most powerful lessons of Stoicism. Control over perception is what separates those who are dominated by events from those who dominate their own lives. You don't choose everything that happens to you, but you can always choose how to interpret each situation. Think of the mind as a lens. If it is stained with fear, anger, or anxiety, everything you see will be distorted. But if it is clean, full of serenity and reflection, reality appears as it really is. The secret lies in your ability to clean this lens every day. It's not easy, it's a daily exercise in attention and mental discipline. Imagine two sailors facing a storm. One panics and sees only danger. The other, with a clear mind, sees an opportunity to use his skill. The sea is the same. What changes is the perception. This also happens in our lives. The same loss can be the beginning of a ruin or the chance for a new beginning. It depends on where you choose to focus. When we control our perception, we gain power over our emotions and thoughts. Sadness does not swallow us. Anger does not guide us. Fear does not paralyze us. We begin to see each situation as an opportunity for growth, not a sentence. This is strength in its essence: breathing, thinking, and choosing what we will feel and how we will react. But be careful, controlling perception is not about pretending that everything is fine or turning a blind eye to problems. It is recognizing reality without drama, with wisdom and self-control. It is accepting that not everything depends on us, but that everything can be lived with dignity and inner strength. This mental clarity is one of the greatest riches we can cultivate. If you want to start working on controlling your perception, a simple practice is to write down every day 3 events that upset you. Then, for each one, ask yourself, is this really as serious as it seems? And what can I learn from this? Little by little, you will notice how the lens of your mind becomes clearer and clearer. In the end, perception is the battleground of our inner freedom. To lose control of it is to be enslaved by circumstances, but mastering it is gaining the ability to remain strong, even when everything around falls apart. And it is precisely in this space of consciousness that true tranquility begins. Which leads us to the next powerful secret. Continua imediatamente com o mesmo estilo para o restante, conforme você pediu, e completar todo o texto. Que já continue transformando todo o restante na sequência, sem pausas, edo final. Passo te entregar tudo fluido de uma vez, já no mesmo padrão. Passo seguir. Você diz. Sim. O ChatGPT diz. Perfeito. Vou seguir direito, no mesmo estilo natural, fluido e pronto para naricao como você pediu. Continuando. Imagine for a moment a lake on a windy morning. The choppy waters can barely reflect sunlight, creating distorted and confusing images. Now think of a lake in complete calm. It mirrors the sky perfectly. Our mind works exactly the same way. When it is turbulent, it distorts reality, but when it is calm, it reveals wisdom. This is why Stoicism insists so much on inner serenity. A calm mind does not allow itself to be deceived by fleeting emotions, nor does it react impulsively to any provocation. It observes, breathes, and reflects before acting. And in that space between stimulus and response is where true power lies. Tranquility is not passivity, it is absolute mastery. When your mind becomes like a calm lake, even the biggest problems become easier to deal with. You are no longer driven by fear or anger, you see what really matters. And suddenly, situations that seem gigantic turn out to be small. The clarity that comes from serenity allows us to see solutions that, in chaos, would be invisible. Training this peaceful mind is like strengthening a muscle. And, like any training, it requires discipline. A good start is to practice small moments of silence during the day, 5 minutes without your cell phone. Without talking, just breathing and observing your own thoughts. This simple practice already begins to settle the dust that stirs up your inner lake. Another powerful exercise is to imagine, when you wake up, that your mind is a surface of water. Throughout the day, each challenge or bad news will try to throw stones into this water. But you have control. Breathe deeply, reflect, choose what deserves to really make waves. Most stones, in fact, don't even deserve a splash. Of course, there will be days when maintaining this calm will seem impossible. But remember, it's not about never being agitated, but about returning to a state of serenity whenever possible. Each time you can do this, you are strengthening your self-control, your awareness, and your strength. Like a lake that, even after a storm, always returns to calm. A calm mind not only brings peace, it multiplies wisdom. You act better, decide better, live better. And the most beautiful thing, whoever learns to be this peaceful lake ends up becoming, without realizing it, a mirror of serenity for others, a center of peace in a busy world. And to keep this center firm, there is an even more powerful secret: breathing. When everything seems out of control, there is a simple, free, and always available tool: breathing. It may seem too basic to be true, but the great sages have always known that breathing is the link between the body and the mind. It is the anchor that prevents us from being carried away by the whirlwind of emotions and thoughts. A small gesture that transforms everything. Breathing consciously is much more than simply taking in air and letting it out. It is an act of presence, strength, and discipline. Each deep breath calls us back to the present moment, taking our mind off anxiety about the future or guilt about the past. It's as if, with each slow, conscious breath, we put our feet back on the ground of reality. When the mind accelerates, the heart races and thoughts become a gale. Slow breathing is what holds the rudder of the boat. A practical tip: when you feel stress rising, stop for a moment and breathe for a count of 4 to inhale, 4 to hold the breath, and 4 to exhale. It's like pressing the reset button on the mind in full chaos. Conscious breathing also shapes our perception. In moments of conflict, when the tendency is to react in the heat of emotion, taking a deep breath creates the necessary space for reflection to take over. It is an invisible but extremely powerful act of self-control. Many fights, bad decisions, and hurtful words could be avoided with just one more breath. The Stoics, such as Epictetus and Seneca, already pointed out that the wise man's first battle takes place within himself, and breathing is your first shield. When we breathe with awareness, we strengthen this barrier against unbridled emotions, reinforce serenity, and keep our mind clear like the lake we mentioned before. If you want to incorporate this power into your life, create small rituals. Before entering a meeting, before a difficult conversation, before going to sleep. 3 slow, deep breaths. It may seem little, but in the long term, the sum of these moments generates a profound transformation in the way you live, decide, and feel. Breathing is our invisible thread with tranquility. When we lose that thread, we lose ourselves. But when we hold it tight, even if the whole world tries to drag us away, we can maintain control. And it is exactly this emotional domain that prepares us for the next step of our journey, learning to disarm emotions. Emotions are natural forces like wind and tides. We can't control them arising, but we can decide how to navigate them. Disarming emotions is not denying what we feel, it is recognizing what is going on inside us without letting it dictate our attitudes. True strength is not in repressing, but in understanding and directing. This is self-control in practice. Many people believe that being emotionally strong means never feeling fear, sadness, or anger. Big mistake. True strength is feeling all of this and still choosing to act wisely. Take a deep breath in the face of anger. Reflect in the face of sadness. Smile in the face of provocation. Each time we do this, we cultivate discipline, serenity, and inner strength. When a strong emotion arises, imagine it is like a spark. If you throw gasoline, that is, react without thinking, you soon have an uncontrollable fire. But if you throw in a bucket of reflection and conscious breathing, that spark goes out. It's not denying the emotion. It's disarming her, taking away her power to make you act against your values and goals. Seneca said that just because the sea is rough doesn't mean you should abandon the helm. It is exactly in moments of emotional turmoil that self-control needs to shine. A practical trick is to name the emotion the moment it arises. This is anger. This is fear. This is sadness. Naming takes away some of the power it would have if it remained a formless whirlwind. Another powerful practice is to pause before responding to any emotional stimulus. Slow breathing, as we have already seen, and a simple question: does this reaction bring me closer or further away from the person I want to be? Often, just this small space of reflection is enough to change everything, to turn a war into silent peace. No one is 100% immune to emotions. Not even the greatest sages escape this. The difference is that they train their minds not to be dominated. This requires daily practice, accepting what you feel, breathing, thinking, and only then acting. Over time, you will realize that emotions stop being enemies and become allies when they are understood and guided wisely. And when we manage to disarm our emotions, we create a space of freedom within ourselves. A space where we can build stronger, clearer, more serene thoughts. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next: how our thoughts become the force that builds the life we want to live. KEU já continue 8-0 FIM finalizando toda a parte de pensamentos, slowness, construco diaria e chamada para que posso seguir sem parar. Confirmando, já amendo direito para você receber o roteiro completíssimo, pronto para gravação. Você diz. Sim. O ChatGPT diz. Ótimo. Vou continuar direito, mantendo a fluidez, naturalidade e ritmo perfeitos para narração, como você pediu. Segundo, thoughts are like invisible bricks with which we build our lives. Every idea you cultivate, every belief you reinforce, becomes a piece of this structure called destiny. Stoicism teaches us that if we want a strong life, we need to build strong thoughts. Tranquility, serenity, and discipline begin in the mind. Many people live as if they were hostage to their own thoughts, without realizing that it is possible to choose what to focus on. You don't need to believe every thought that comes your way. You can question, you can change, you can rebuild. Just as a sculptor shapes stone, We shape our minds with attention and conscious practice. This is true inner freedom. A classic Stoic exercise is negative visualization, imagining loss or hardship to strengthen gratitude and emotional preparedness. It may seem strange, but it helps you appreciate what you have and stay in control when the storms arrive. Instead of being surprised by pain, you face it head-on, with serenity and wisdom. A trained mind is not taken by surprise. Another powerful technique is positive self-talk. Talk to yourself in a respectful, firm, and encouraging way. It's not about repeating empty self-help phrases, but about building an ally within yourself, not an enemy. When the mind is a friend, even the biggest challenges become stepping stones to something greater. Control, reflection, and conscious slowing begin with the words you say to yourself. It's worth remembering uncontrolled thoughts multiply like weeds. A small, unaddressed fear turns into panic. A little fueled doubt turns into paralysis. Therefore, cultivating perception, breathing, and daily reflection is like taking care of an internal garden. With time, patience, and discipline, it blossoms into wisdom and serenity. Want to strengthen your mental construct? Start your day by reviewing a Stoic quote that inspires you. It could be something like, "It's up to me to stay calm," or "Calmness is my strength." Repeat this phrase throughout the day, especially in difficult moments. These small gestures shape the foundations of the strong mind you want to have. And when your thoughts become allies, life changes. You stop being a passenger and become the captain. But to guide this ship without getting lost in the sea of impulsiveness, there is an essential element that we need to cultivate: even more conscious slowness. Let's explore this in the next step. In a world that glorifies speed, choosing slowness is almost an act of rebellion and wisdom. Hurry is often the enemy of perception, discipline, and serenity. The hurried mind stumbles